doesn't feel like we're the owners anymore. It feels like we're somehow passengers on a ship that we have less control over, but we're still the owners of this democracy. You know, companies just want to maximize the bottom line. They don't care about our health. They don't care about our well-being. So then you have to hit them where it hurts. You have to say, look, if you do not come within these international guidelines, then we, the government of this country, have the ability to license your drug. And then we have public manufacturing facilities where we can manufacture your drug. That is the giant club.
And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club and you ain't in it.
These companies only know one language, and it's dollars and cents, so we got to hit them where it hurts. They've long ago lost their sense of public interest, public good, public health. No. We have a system now where it just rewards the bottom line, because half of Americans are never going to be able to retire. Just like you, where they're saying I have to work just in order to survive. And I have no interest in living in a country where I go into a convenience store, a grocery store, and there is an elderly American working just to survive instead of a teenager who used to do that job for beer money. Like, that's the way it ought to be, frankly. I mean, instead of having an American who's never going to retire, is just going to work, and the numbers are staggering, you all know. Half of Americans aren't going to have adequate retirement savings. We're entering an age where being old and poor is going to be the norm in this country. And so we have to change that. And my flagship proposal is the biggest expansion of Social Security that has been proposed in generations. It is the freedom dividend, $1,000 a month for every American citizen, starting at age 18 until the day you die. And so then if you need another $12,000 a year, it's coming to you because you're a citizen of this country. You're an owner and shareholder of this country. A higher minimum wage does not help people like my wife, who's at home with our 2 young boys, one of whom is autistic. I mean, what does a higher minimum wage do for her? What does a higher minimum wage do for any of the caregivers or people who are spending time ministering to their loved ones? Here in Iowa, I'm giving a freedom dividend personally to a guy named Kyle Christensen, who's at home with his ailing mom, who's recovering from cancer. And so I would think that what Kyle's doing is some of the most important work being done in our society that would never be recognized by something like a higher minimum wage. We need to think much bigger about what work is and what value is in our society. You're right that when there's a gun in the household, you're more likely to have a child get shot or the owner get shot than to kill, let's say, an intruder into the house. Those are just numbers. Those are just the facts. So one of the things we can do, and it's very hard to get into Americans' houses where all of these guns are, but if we can convince Americans that personalized guns are a good idea, then again, if the child gets a hold of the gun and they can't do anything with it, then it just becomes a very heavy, expensive prop.
Explain to us what that means and how possibly you could get that done and pay for it.
I'm aligned with Democrats in terms of the big legislative goals. We need to have universal background checks and red flag laws and ban automatic weapons. But the reality is we have over 300 million firearms already in this country. About one for every man, woman, and child, and whatever law we pass, those firearms are still out there. So how do you decrease supply? How do you make those guns safer? We should have a perpetual buyback, in effect, where anyone who wants to sell their gun gets some money, and then you can start reducing supply. The other thing you can do in this personalization of guns, you can make a grip that essentially knows whether it's the owner based upon the size of their hand, the pressure. It's not a fingerprint thing, it's just like essentially the dimensions of your hand. And then if someone else tries to fire the gun, then it doesn't work. And this sounds very James Bondish, but the technology is very, very much available. It's just the gun manufacturers have not felt like it was going to be good for their businesses to have this. And this technology has become controversial because of inflammatory arguments on both sides.
Would it be required to do that? Just as a quick follow-up, would gun owners have to do that, submit their guns to have that sort of personalization?
I know it would be optional, but a lot of owners would love it, because who doesn't want a gun that's just yours? And a lot of gun owners have children. They know their children get a hold of the gun and tragedies can occur. So if you were to make it cost-free, you would see hundreds of thousands of these guns become personalized and then much, much safer.
What, though, is your specific appeal to Southern and African American voters nationally, in your opinion?
Well, the centerpiece of my campaign is a freedom dividend of $1,000 a month, which would be transformative for many people here in the South and would go a longer way in communities that have lower access to capital and to job opportunities, which unfortunately overlaps with many black communities, both here in South Carolina and around the country. And the freedom dividend is something that Martin Luther King was fighting for in 1967 and 1968.
The answer, it seems to me, is a guaranteed annual income, a guaranteed minimum income for all people and for all families of our country.
And when he fought for it, he said, look, this shouldn't be for any particular subset of Americans because poor blacks and poor whites have common cause to make. And so I'm happy to say that the freedom dividend is attracting support from different communities, but certainly here in South Carolina, I think it's the reason why I'm increasing in popularity here.
What to buy? The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Do you think that other Democrats running for office need to be talking about this issue?
You know, I'm happy to say they're catching on, and I'm hearing from more and more candidates that we are in the midst of this historic shift and that we need to start evolving and adapting our economic system. And so I think I might have had something to do with the fact that now it's top of mind for more candidates, but I'll tell you, it's a top of mind for many, many Americans. And so I think it's going to really stay front and center in the months to come.
I could not agree more that the biggest lie in American life right now is that we don't have the money. We are the richest society in the history of the world. Our economy is up to $20 trillion plus. And I don't remember anyone saying we don't have the money when it was Wall Street's turn to seek a bailout in 2008. You all remember that? Do you remember voting for the $4 trillion bailout of Wall Street? I sure as hell don't. You remember anyone looking around saying, where's the money going to come from? I don't remember that either. So I could not agree with you more that this is a battle between a mindset of scarcity, which unfortunately is winning in our country, and a mindset of abundance and humanity. Now, why is the mindset of scarcity winning? Because of the reason you're all here today. 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Half can't afford an unexpected $500 bill. And so if you say, hey, do something for those people, what's the human response? You know it. They say, like, wait, if they're getting theirs, then that's somehow bad for me. And then if you demonize them, then I'm on board. That is a mindset of scarcity in action. So how do you reverse that? How do you unbrainwash so many of our fellow citizens to the fact that we are the richest society in the history of the world? We can easily afford a dividend of $1,000 a month to help even the playing field. And the way we do that is by getting Americans on board with a vision of the fact that we're all owners and shareholders of this country. Instead of seeing it as like, oh, they're getting something, it's like, no, everyone gets this. It's an income that we all deserve as owners and shareholders. And when a company declares a dividend, when Verizon says, hey, we made some money, so let's give everyone money, everyone applauds management. They say that's great work. And now it is our turn as a country to come together as a democracy and say we deserve a dividend, and we can make that case very, very strongly to the entire American people.
And would your, just to really quickly follow up, would your dividend be means tested or universal?
So the Freedom Dividend, which is a flagship proposal of my presidential platform, is that it is not means tested, and we're taking a page from Alaska's book, where Alaska gives everyone a dividend. They do not see whether you're employed or what your means are, and then it becomes universally popular. It is impossible to demonize or villainize.